For over 25 years now, players have been immersed within Capcom's survival horror series, Resident Evil. From humble beginnings in a haunted house to world-ending events in 6, Resident Evil has not only managed to stick around longer than most video game franchises, but has also had a coherent story throughout. But after months of Capcom drip-feeding us information about the 8th major installment in Resident Evil, surprisingly nothing's really leaked. Not even Dust Golem has that many major scoops at the moment. And for the rest of the internet, well, they're fixated on one very tall vampire lady. Overall, Resident Evil Village will soon be upon us, and with that there's another major chapter in the canon to be set to code. Though going into this game there's more questions and mysteries than ever before. So with that and all the speculation, I'm Ben Roy from WhatCulture.com, and this is Resident Evil Village, 10 best fan theories you need to know. Number 10. Jill Valentine will return. After her run-in with Wesker in Resident Evil 5 and becoming a mindless slave and getting a hair colour change, we've not really seen anything of Jill. After that game she was taken in by the BSAA and became pen pals with Barry, helping him mend relationships with his daughter, Moira. But largely, her story has been left untold. To be honest, it's a really odd admission from the series. Like Sherry, Jill possesses really special blood after being one of the few people to survive being infected. And if and when Capcom do bring her back, this should be a key factor in how she plays, give her new abilities and an edge to her, rather than just a few guns. Let's get creative. This, and the fact she was such a close friend to Chris Redfield, who just happens to be on the box, means that she must be a prime candidate to make a return. If anything, she could be there in Chris's time of need. Or maybe she's the one who helps Ethan stop him. We kind of don't know what Chris is doing yet. To this day, it's so strange and frankly a missed opportunity that she never popped up in 6. So let's hope we stop making this mistake and get Jill back into the fold soon. Number 9. The Weskers, Albert, Alex, and Jake. For a long time, Albert Wesker was the overarching villain of the Resident Evil franchise. Now, much like with the case of Jill, Resident Evil does need to move on, though there are still some loose ends to be tied up with Project W and that bloodline. Now let's just make it perfectly clear, Albert Wesker is super dead. Probably the most dead of any video game character known to date. He was dropped in a volcano and then blown up by rocket launchers, courtesy of Chris and Sheva. But thanks to some events afterwards, he could possibly return. Alex Wesker, for example, being the only other survivor of Project W in Resident Evil Revelations 2. At the very end of that, it's strongly hinted she survived and managed to transfer her mind into a young child, Natalie. If she can do this, what's stopping Albert from doing this and using Jake Mueller as a backup? Because after all, Albert Wesker would be the type of person to have a son just for this reason. As far out as this one is, it's just something I think Capcom should or could do. And if not, at least have Jake show his face and set up later games. Number 8. The truth behind Blue Umbrella. Now, whereas Wesker might be the face of evil in Resident Evil, the cause of literally everything in this long-running video game canon, well, it's the Umbrella Corporation. Founded by Oswald E. Spencer, James Marcus, and Edward Ashford, the legacy or, well, curse of the Umbrella Corporation has never been lifted on this world. After it went defunct in 2004, bioweapons started to leak out on the world stage. But in 2007, Umbrella was reborn. Now seemingly switching to the good side, Blue Umbrella is working alongside Chris Redfield and the BSAA to help them clean up bioterror around the world. So in Resident Evil Village, will they accompany Chris as he's seemingly after the old Umbrella sites? Or will they have a darker role to play? One thing's for sure, they won't just feature for a couple of seconds at the end of the game like they did in Resident Evil 7. Capcom doesn't reintroduce something like this just for a t-shirt sale. Number 7. Hairy Hammer Guy is Heisenberg transformed. Carl Heisenberg, or the Hat Man as he's been known as across the internet, is still very much a mystery when it comes to Resident Evil Village. So far all we can tell is that he's working with Lady Dimitrescu and her family in the surrounding area, acting as someone who keeps order around the outer regions of the castle, situated somewhere in Eastern Europe. Always accompanied with his grim, at least in his first form, Heisenberg doesn't seem to be a friend, let alone a pushover. We can only speculate that he'll be acting as the trademark pursuer enemy in this installment. Well, at least until Ethan stumbles across a very tall woman. Though thanks to the most recent story trailer, it's almost become crystal clear that Heisenberg will transform, much like in the same vein of classic werewolf horror fiction. Just by looking at the pair's clothing and the hammer they carry, it's a dead giveaway. And well, since I record this video, it's pretty much been confirmed. Number 6. Why Chris Redfield shot Mia. When it comes to Resident Evil, there are only really 2 contenders for the face of the franchise, that being Leon S. Kennedy and of course, the man on the box, Chris Redfield. Far from the days of his babyface stars outings, Chris has become more jaded and broken down over the years. But with the events of Village, will it all become too much for him? By the time of Resident Evil 6, Chris had been fighting the good fight for 15 years now. Eventually, this has got to wear a person down, even someone fake and made out of code. Fast forward to the present day, Chris is now part of the Hound Wolf Squad, which sounds like something out of Metal Gear Solid, but he's been seemingly stepping up the fight against BOWs. Maybe in this case, he's trying to stop them before they even get unleashed. This This could explain why Chris executes Mia, or he's trying to save Ethan and Mia's child, Rosemary. It's hard to believe that Chris has gone full bad guy, especially after his boulder punching days. But if he has, we can at least see why. This man has lost almost everyone he's ever fought with, be it they've left him or just straight up died. So it's telling that Capcom are almost telegraphing his demise in this one. Hardly anyone stays down or dies in Resident Evil, but if Chris does, that would be a bold choice. Number 5. Claire Redfield to the rescue. If this is truly going to be the dark turn for Chris, or his demise, we at least need a cameo from his sister, Claire. Early on she helped tie the first 2 games together, and even took the fight against Umbrella after the Raccoon City incident during the events of Code Veronica. If her brother is in serious trouble and Jill can't make it, then Claire surely will. That being said, she took a fairly different path than Chris after the Ashfords were defeated. Claire stepped away from the fight for a more passive lifestyle, helping those impacted by bioterrorism, rather than fighting it with a gun, even though this didn't stop her being pulled into the thick of it on a few occasions. Much like what was theorized with Jill, she could come into the events of Resident Evil Village in the final act, mirroring what Chris did for her in Code Veronica. It might be finally time to save Chris for once, before it's too late. Hell, she could even bring Sherry along for the ride too. Number 4. The truth behind Mia's death. Mia was the catalyst for all the events in the 7th major Resident Evil game. She was the reason Ethan drove to the Baker family home and worked closely with the game's BOW, Evelyn. She did have 2 fates in the game, but the trailer has sealed one of them in canon, leaving Zoe Baker behind, reinstating the fact that the end of Zoe DLC is canon. That being said, we don't necessarily know what the state of Mia is. Sure, she seems to be settled nicely before Chris comes crashing through the door and unloads a clip into her face, but perhaps the mold or something even worse was still lingering with inside her. Or if not, there's bound to be some lasting effects. Much like Jill and Sherry, the infection isn't just gonna go after the credits roll. She would have been changed forever by Evelyn, and maybe she's transferred some of that over to her child. Or just to get a little darker, maybe it wasn't Mia that escaped after all, and a fake replicant was in her place. Either way, there's bound to be another layer to all this. Number 3. The Village, Umbrella, and Mother Miranda. Resident Evil is no stranger to a spooky village or even a gothic castle. In fact, the last time the series featured both, it was Resident Evil 4. That changed the series and revolutionized the genre forever. Though with this one, Capcom seems to be blurring the lines between its science fiction roots and, well, just straight up dark fantasy. But the real question has to be, what is the village and castle hiding? There's a strong case for it being another secret Umbrella facility, because it's Resident Evil. I mean, the Umbrella logo has been featured more times in the trailers than in the past few games. It even seems to be directly tied to the house structure of the region. And then there's Mother Miranda, the true spectre looming over this game. Is she alive or is she dead? And was she the former head of this Umbrella outpost? More than likely she'll be needing something, like a host maybe. To take a wild guess, it'll probably be Ethan's child. Number 2. Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters aren't vampires. Straight up, a lot of people are gonna be disappointed because these women aren't actually vampires. But most likely, they'll probably be the results of prior Umbrella testing. And then there's the question of not if, but what virus is running through their veins. Could we be jumping way back to the progenitor virus? Or will it be something new? According to the art director, Tomonaro Takano, Dimitrescu is a blend of previous villains and monsters, such as Lisa Trevor and Alexia Ashford. This can help explain the satanic witch cult and vampirism going on, as she and her daughters will no doubt need to feed off living flesh. They'll need to sustain themselves too. Playing into old folk tales of vampires and werewolves will help the surrounding areas stay in line, but at the same time they'll fly low enough under the radar and might help explain how they've ruled the surrounding area for the past 70 years. Number 1. Ethan Winters is Wesker. 4 years after Resident Evil 7 hit the shelves, we still don't know anything about Ethan. At first it was thought that RE7 Biohazard was going to be a way to reboot the series, but instead it served as a jumping point for many into the franchise, with the Resident Evil charm coming through as the game unfolded. And well, thanks to the latest story trailer, everyone seems to know who Ethan is, but us. But why does Capcom still hide his face? Well, maybe they're gonna pull a Phantom Pain, and Ethan is actually a well-known character of old. What if this is the return of Albert Wesker? We've covered body swapping before, and he's one of the only old major characters still not connected. Something's gotta be special about Ethan, and there's no doubt that Capcom doesn't have a MasterCard to play. And yet the real question is, why wasn't he gunned down by Chris as well? And why does everyone in this small part of Europe know him? Could it be his affiliation to Mia, or something else? With this set of Resident Evil games looking to be a trilogy, like him or not, he'll have a larger part to play, other than just being a faceless phantom. And that's our list. What do you think of these fan theories? Are they out of this world, or do some of them make sense? Let me know down in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I've been Ben Roy Turner, and you can follow me at Ben Roy Turner, and follow us all at WCulture Gaming. And until next time, no more games.